Hello everybody, this is Dr. Doug Graham, here to talk to you today about the 80-10-10 Food and Lifestyle Retreat. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. If you have any trouble hearing me, you can let me know by just marking on the little information box on the right side of your screen. We can adjust things. I want to talk to you about everything you need to know in order to succeed for a lifetime of 80-10-10. Not just the food, and not just the lifestyle, the whole package. Before I do, I'd like to take the briefest poll possible. It's just one question, just to ask you what it is that drew you here, what you're hoping to gain, what you want to find out, why you're interested in the 80-10-10 Food and Lifestyle Retreat. I'll give you a couple of options to choose from. You pick one of the options to let us know what's the most important reason to you for being here tonight, and I will customize the content of the presentation in order to actually give the majority of the people their information they hope to gain. And not to worry, I'm not going to keep it a secret either. At the end, we'll let you know what everybody else said about their version of the poll and see if we've covered everyone's needs. If not, not to worry even again, because I will take questions and give you answers after we're finished and run with that until you feel like you've gotten your questions answered. So without further ado, here's the poll, answer the question, and we can move on. 80-10-10 is a very simple ratio. It's not a new concept or something that I created all on my own. It's simply an issue of how much carbohydrate, how much fat, and how much protein we get in our diet. Now, 80-10-10 is not a target. 80-10-10 is a guideline that essentially we want to hover near. But if we were going to try to be precise in the amount of fat, carbohydrate, and protein, something that I call the caloronutrient ratio, what I'd be looking for is a diet where less than 10% of your total calories come from fat, less than 10% from protein, and more than 80% from carbohydrates. Now, I'm going to explain that a little bit. If we look at what people eat around the world, you'll find that a worldwide average runs very close to 10% of calories from protein. When I suggest 80-10-10, you want to come up to but not much beyond 10% of calories from protein, I'm actually recommending what people already eat anyway. Oh, I know, everybody asks where do you get your protein. The people on the mainstream diet ask the people on more concerning or discerning diets. The people on the discerning diets ask the vegetarians ask the vegans ask the raw fooders, and the raw fooders ask the 80-10-10ers, where do you get your protein? It's pretty funny because basically all of them are eating about 10% of their calories from protein. Within a few percentage points of either side of 10, it catches almost everyone, with the exception of the people who eat protein powder out of a can and intentionally add extra protein into their program, which has problems specifically for the kidneys. If you think of how many famous athletes have ended up with kidney problem, it's disproportionate to the general population, and a lot of that's due to the fact that they're taking in excess proteins. We've been trained to think that more is better, but in the reality, we've also been trained to understand that too much of something is as much of a problem as too little. When we get blood work done, you don't want to have too much white blood count. You don't want to have too low or too high. You don't want to have too much or too little of any factor in the blood. We understand when you're checking for iron or calcium or magnesium, too much or too little is problematic. And yet somehow we take that information, transfer it over to nutrition, and start thinking that too much is good. More is better. The most, the best. And it doesn't really work that way at all. It doesn't. What works is the sweet spot in the middle. In the middle between the high range and the low range. Well, for human beings, 10% is pretty much the sweet spot. A few points either way. When you go over 10, we start to see it stressing kidneys first, and then joints second, and other problems accrue. The big issue is fat, really, isn't it? The big issue is fat, because around the world, the average people are eating about 40% of their calories from fat. In the Western world, we're eating closer to 45%. In the highly civilized dairy manufacturing, mass marketing of meat, we're getting even higher, beyond 45, approaching 50. In the raw food, the general raw food world, the average raw fooder is eating between 60 to 80% of their calories from fat, while doctors, oncologists, health specialists, sports physiologists, pretty much everybody in the health field is recommending that we keep our fat consumption low. Not just relatively low, but all the way down into single digits. The longest study in the world on nutrition, and also, separate from that, the largest study in the world, the Framingham study and the China study, both came up with the conclusions recommending that single-digit fat consumption was best for human health. I agree, and I have no reason to disagree. Well, by the time our fat consumption is down in single digits and our proteins are down in single digits, carbohydrates have to be above 80. Interesting, in other studies, recommended ranges have come through for fat and protein, and the numbers come out the same. They recommend between 3 to 10% of our calories from fat. You go below 3 and you start to run into potential health problems. You start to go below 3 for fat or protein, and you could conceivably bump into health problems. In order to do that with either food, you'd have to be relying upon highly refined products. Whole foods always carry at least 3 to 10% of their calories from fat and protein. We go above 10%, we bump into health problems. We go below 3%. So somewhere around 7 to 8, somewhere in that sweet spot, 6, is pretty much ideal. And oddly enough, if you eat a diet that is just fruits and vegetables and nothing else but fruits and vegetables, you will come out eating somewhere between 6 to 8% of your calories from fat and 6 to 8% of your calories from protein. Works out rather well. We've always been told that fruits and vegetables are health foods and we should eat more fruits and vegetables. The 80-10-10 diet just takes that to the logical conclusion and said, eat fruits and vegetables, pretty much to the exclusion of everything else. As I've said, protein doesn't fluctuate much from diet to diet. And if the carbohydrate intake goes up, the fat intake has to go down. And if the fat goes up, well, then carbohydrate intake goes down. When carbohydrate intake goes down, we bump into problems, both health-wise, lack of a feeling of energy, not enough fuel, as well as emotional. We start being driven. We develop an unhealthy relationship with food. We start developing cravings. And we've seen that almost all the cravings and almost all of the unhealthy relationships with food, the disrelationships with food, revolve around the consumption of complex carbohydrate foods. If you eat enough fruits, you're not really looking for complex carbohydrates. 80-10-10 leads to health, especially in terms of oxygen and sugar metabolism. As Dr. T. Colin Campbell, author of the China study, said, the healthiest possible diet is the 80-10-10 diet. For sugar metabolism, we use 3 key words: uptake, transport, and delivery. The uptake of sugar from the digestive tract happens more rapidly when the fat in our diet is kept low. The transporting of that sugar through the bloodstream is far more efficient when the amount of fat in the bloodstream is kept low. And the delivery of the sugar from the bloodstream to the cells is remarkably more efficient when the fat in the blood is low or relatively low, healthfully low. When the fat is relatively high, sugar in your blood has a difficult time being delivered. It can't get out of the blood, and that buildup in blood sugar, rising in blood sugar, spikes of blood sugar, lead to things like candida, diabetes, hyper and hypoglycemia, resulting in huge swings in energy, much better athletic recovery, easier weight management, and, oddly, reduced cancer risk. Although cancer doesn't have its root cause from sugar, cancer cells like to eat excess sugar, excess blood sugar, just like anybody else wants to. All the cells of our body are fueled by sugar. And so if we can keep our blood sugar relatively stable by keeping fat in the diet in single digits, we reduce our cancer risk. At the same time, we can look at the same 3 words for the oxygen metabolism. The uptake, transport, and delivery of oxygen from the outside air into our bloodstream, traveling through the bloodstream and then delivered to the cells. All of these are impaired when fat in the diet rises. We want to keep fat in the diet, or dietary fat, down in single-digit range whenever possible for optimum health. When oxygen metabolism is unleashed or at its optimum, we notice much faster athletic recovery, that what we think of as on-court recovery, regaining your breath after a sprint or a heavy exercise. You have a sense of more energy. You're better able to metabolize your fuel, and so you feel an expression of more energy. We notice we think more clearly. We go outside for a breath of fresh air, and when you get a neat, eye-opening idea, we call it a breath of fresh air. So we see enhanced mental performance when oxygen uptake, transport, and delivery are improved. If the heart can't get enough oxygen, you can very quickly end up with heart problems. And of course, cancer cells thrive in a low oxygen environment. So if you're not getting enough oxygen to any particular area of your body, we have increased risk of cancer. So I want to make 80-10-10 as easy for you as I possibly can. I really want to just okay, hold your hand from the start to the finish, because I've noticed that some people read 80-10-10 diet and just run with the program and never look back. And some people transition to 80-10-10 and eventually get there and run with the program and never look back. And then there's others who have a very difficult time making the transition. Obviously, they're missing some information because some people find it easy. And others just never seem to get started, or they struggle for years and years. And I want to make it easy. I want to hold your hand. I want to show you what it is you don't know, what's the missing piece. Let's fill in the blanks, be led by people who are already succeeding and want you to succeed as well. I want this to go smoothly for you. And so what we'll do is ask Kevin for the results of the poll. Hey Kevin, are you still online with us tonight?
I certainly am, Dr. Graham.
How did it go with the poll? Did anybody take it?
They certainly did, and
Oh, good.
some also added in options that weren't on the poll because the poll was a little bit limited.
Okay,
But
that's good.
yes, the most dominant answer was most people want to have a direct hands-on tutorial of how to live 80-10-10. And also coming in second was how to obtain more recipes and meal plans. Some of the specifics that were shared were about reversing diabetes and obtaining clear skin, and also being able to disseminate the information to family and children.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I think this uptake, transport, and delivery idea is a great thing to convey to family and even to children in a way that they can understand it without it seeming like you're being judgmental or becoming the authority. You're citing other sources. Certainly for recipes, I mean, I'm gonna strongly recommend Simply Delicious. We're creating a series of ebooks. They're coming out on a regular basis, one after the next, about monthly, maybe 6 weeks, and they're going to just keep pouring out. Or the plan is to put out at least a dozen, and if they're met with popularity, another dozen after that. We certainly covered the diabetes thing. I mean, my experience with diabetes has been that if you're a type 2 diabetic and you go on 80-10-10, within about 48 hours, you're no longer a type 2 diabetic. You do not need to continue taking insulin. That's been the average response. There's been people who responded more rapidly than that, and some who took 72 hours. But 2 to 3 days has usually been all it takes to get to a point for a type 2 diabetic not to rely on insulin anymore. Now, if you're a type 1 diabetic, the situation is a little more severe because you're literally not producing insulin, or not producing much insulin, usually not producing a measurable amount. And for a type 1 diabetic, my experience has been that only a 75 to 80% improvement. That is, every type 1 diabetic improves, but they only improve by about 75 to 80%, meaning in terms of the amount of insulin used per gram of carbohydrate consumed. And I mean, most people would say, wow, an 80% improvement is fantastic, and I agree. But I'm not out here saying, oh, guaranteed 100% improvement, because that just may not be possible. And we're certainly still looking into ways to make that possible, but as of yet, we've really had to settle for 75 to 80% improvement. And again, it comes very quickly. I want to talk a little bit about our food and lifestyle retreat. And so you might be wondering if the retreat is going to give you the things that you're hoping to get from it. Obviously, if you're new to 80-10-10 and you want to take the rapid course, you want to take the straight line, the shortest possible distance between 2 points, the food and lifestyle retreat will just show you how to succeed. Then you just keep doing that. If you've been struggling for a while with 80-10-10, haven't seemed to be able to get it to work just the way you want it to, We'll answer your questions, we'll show you how, we'll hold your hand, we'll get you going in the right direction and put the struggle behind you. For those of you who are, well, you've been working at it, you've been playing with it, maybe pushing it with a stick, as they say, but you want to get better at 80-10-10 than you have. The Food and Lifestyle Retreat is exactly what you need. We'll show you the tips and the tricks that will mean more to you than they will for a beginner, because you've already been in those situations and understand the applications better, and you'll be easily able to integrate 80-10-10 into your lifestyle. If you're looking for more recipes, I mean, we're going to show you recipes galore. I would think almost every breakfast and lunch and 2 or 3 courses at each dinner will be new to you. Oh, I didn't know you could do this. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. You'll learn a lot of recipes. And of course, our head chefs, Alicia Ojeda, will be there, and several of our other chefs will be at the event, more than willing to talk with you. Of course, you know, we have a very, very high ratio of staff to guests, approaching 1-to-1. And so there's plenty of people there willing to talk to you and help you and make suggestions for you. So between the actual show and tell at the event, adding in Simply Delicious, we can give you dinner recipes until you just have more than you know what to do with them all. If you're the kind of person who has to see it in order to do it, and there we have my devoted Daisy. If you're the kind of person who needs to see it in order to do it, we'll show you how. We'll put you into an immersion situation where you can actually live successfully on 80-10-10 and then have the best experience possible. There's more benefits. The list is long. We had to really shorten it. If you want to prepare and eat those organic 80-10-10 raw vegan meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we serve 100% organic. And so you can find out not only what is available, but see the wide variety of foods that we actually eat on 80-10-10. And part of the program will be that every attendee will have experience in the kitchen each day, seeing how it comes together. So it's not just us putting it on the table and saying, okay, now you go home and do it. We'll actually hold your hand, have you involved in the process so that you can start at the beginning of the meal, be involved in every step, and then sit down and eat the meal. We're going to show you healthy eating patterns, discussing when to eat, how much to eat, which foods at different times of day, why do we do it this way, where's the flexibility, what do you need special for your situation. We'll show you the proven healthy eating patterns and make sure that you gain confidence with your own kitchen skills through our expert guidance. I've literally seen Chef Alicia holding people's hands while they learn the knife skills or what it's supposed to feel like to put a certain piece of equipment together so that they can feel it. And then once you know, you know. Lots of new recipes, lots of new recipes, lots of new recipes. I know people want recipes. We see it all the time, and that's just fine. We want you to have as many recipes as you want, and we'll make them available and show you where to get more. You will gain a practical knowledge of produce selection, management, and preparation. We always have someone on hand whose job is just food quality and quality control. As I say, we're buying the finest quality produce available to begin with, but then you still have to go through food quality. What's ripe, what's ripening up properly, and what's going improperly? Is there one bad one in the bunch? How do you care for the different foods? There's a lot of details to food management, and I agree, most of it is child's play, and we should have learned it as children, but we didn't. So now we want to gain those skills, put it into words, teach you the vocabulary, teach you the considerations, so that you can manage your own food and not experience a great amount of waste in your household. Or draw house flies or fruit flies or any other kind of flies into your house because food's going bad. Of course, you'll learn the secrets of enjoying a great social life, and we will talk about the social and the emotional aspects of 80-10-10 at the retreat, while you discover how to enjoy fitness at your level. Every class is taught custom to the individual. So you're never going to be left behind, and it's never going to be too easy, whether you're a super fit guy or just a beginner, or you used to be fit but now you're not, or you're trying to overcome an injury. Every fitness class will be customized to meet your needs. Of course, private coaching is always available, but private coaching tends to be expensive, and there are a lot of perks of a group experience that you simply can't get in a one-on-one situation. Having a group is just a lot more fun, and it's fun when you feel a whole group doing something and committing to something, because it's easy for you to do it too as long as everybody else is doing it. Kurt Vonnegut wrote books on the idea of lonely no more. And there's no reason for you to struggle or feel like you're on your own when you're doing 80-10-10. Let's do it as a group and feel the support that comes from doing something with a group of like-minded individuals who aren't picking on you, but are there to support you and help you build your health and hopefully succeed on 80-10-10. We want everybody to succeed on 80-10-10. Of course, having people to play with when we go out to do fitness activities is a joy. And everything is elective at the retreat. You don't have to go to anything, but we're offering something all day long. You'll develop lasting friendships. We'll serve fantastic meals that you can enjoy the four goods. Good food, good times, good conversation with good people. And nobody's ever going to ask you, where do you get your protein? Every class has an agenda, but I then teach that class to the group and customize it to the individuals so that you can ask your questions in a close, personal, family, friendly setting where you feel safe and secure to say, oh, I just don't understand this one bit, or how do I know when, whatever. And all the classes and lectures will be like one-on-one conversations. It'll be like just a friendly time and as comfortable as it can possibly be. We have evening entertainment every night, which is geared towards helping us develop some of the social and emotional skills inherent in succeeding on 80-10-10. So it's not just mindless. We're not just going to play Chinese whispers or something. We will do something that is geared towards helping you bring 80-10-10 home. The group will be small. No other way to describe it. We expect a full house, but we max out at 16 people. We're just not going to take, well, I mean, if something happens and we have to take 18, we can, but we consider 16 full house. And I'm not really looking to take more than 16 at a time. At 16, I can divide my attention and make sure that everyone gets the attention they need. And we still have enough staff to support you fully. Lots of one-on-one time, lots of good time. I'd like to tell you a little about the retreat center. It just doesn't get any prettier. It wouldn't fit us any better. I've looked at hundreds of retreat centers. All of them have redeeming features, and then reasons why, nah, that one really isn't the one for this particular retreat. The Cedro Woolly area in September and October experiences the best weather of the year for us. It tends to be dry. It tends to be comfortable temperature. And as the season is going through some change, we tend to see beautiful skies, sunsets and sunrises that are magnificent. We're set in a valley surrounded by mountains. Many of them have snow on their peaks. While we're down in the valley, it's warm and comfortable, and every day brings blessings. We have facilities to allow for the fact that it might rain. We can do everything indoors if we have to, and we have plenty of room to do so. In fact, there's a new building being built for us, specifically for us, this year. And of course, the environment is rich in wildlife, rich in the sounds of nature. And for me, I couldn't find a better spot. There's elk, there's eagle, there's salmon. You occasionally hear coyote. I've seen a wolf. It's pretty set in nature. You feel like you're at a national park. Comfort is key, and no place would be comfortable without at least some swimming. We have a river, the Skagit River runs right in the backyard. You can walk to it in a few minutes. You can dive in and have a refreshing swim every day. There's trails that go for miles on the grounds so that no one ever gets lost or mislaid, and you can have the peace and tranquility you want, the solitude if you need it. Go for just to regain your connectedness with nature, or you can stay right in at the classes and keep going all day with us. We take your comfort seriously. And so we have all new beds, all new bedding, all new kitchenware. The living room is, it's just set up like a home living room. It's really comfortable and clean, and well, we tend to keep the home fires burning so that there's always a warm hearth to sit around if that's what you want to do. And we're going to bring you great food. You can count on the food being spectacular. You can imagine that you'll probably never see the same setting twice. So here on a Middle Eastern night, we sat on the floor. The next night, we were in a different room on chairs. The next night, we were in a different room. The meals tend to have a theme and follow through the theme from first course, second course, and third course. And we see a wide variety of 80-10-10 choices, and we'll show you and tell you how to make every bit of it. It happens to be peach season and nectarine season. And until you've had the West Coast's finest core fruit and stone fruit, you just don't know how good it can possibly get. I grew up on the East Coast where we thought Georgia peaches were really something, and they were. But those West Coast peaches are just out of this world. California does a really good job, and it's the height of season, and will bring you the best varieties of organic stone fruit that you've ever tasted. Want a little oatmeal for breakfast? We'll show you how to make it 80-10-10. You're hoping to get something a little more exotic? We'll show you how to do it 80-10-10. It's simply delicious and is easily made. It's quick. It doesn't take chefing skills that you could require years to learn. We'll show you how to do it. You'll do it yourself, and you'll go home and be able to make the same dishes when you get there. It really will not be difficult. The food is always a highlight. Whether we're looking at simple salads or salad sandwiches or stuffed mushrooms or wherever we want to go, on and on through our options, it just gets better and better. I never grew up on stuffed tomato, but it's become a favorite for me. We believe presentation is an important part of the enjoyment of the meal, and so we will always make a point to make sure that the meals are presented in an ambiance that enhances the taste, the texture, the flavor, the color, the sound, the light, the conditions, the temperature. We want it to be a pleasure when you eat your meal. Every aspect of eating a meal wants to be a pleasure. With that in mind, we create a day at the retreat and show you what a typical day will look like at our 80-10-10 food and lifestyle retreat. We start in the morning with a bit of activity, get you up and moving. It's not cold by 7, and sometimes we'll go out. If the weather allows, we'll go out. If it doesn't allow, we'll stay in. It's not a big issue, and it's just a gentle awakening. It's just to get us going, awake and alert enough so that breakfast tastes good and we're ready by the time the first lifestyle presentation comes around. Everybody's had that experience. You can only sit for so long before you just have to get up and move. So by 11 o'clock, we're up and moving. And we'll show you some of the fun and games that can go on to make a little bit of intense fitness in a reasonably short period of time work for anybody. Lunch tends to be sweet, and then comes an educational presentation where we focus on food. And there's a lot of different aspects to focus on food. We're taking plenty of time there, and then off to the kitchen for basic food prep and meal planning considerations. You'll actually be involved in the making of the meals that we'll get to eat from 5 to 7. By 7:30, we're looking at managing our social life and all the different considerations that come in there to improving our communication skills, to our relationship with ourself, to how to deal with others, how to be an influence on others. The topics go on and on. We'll have a lot of fun. Every day is filled, and that's the way I like them best. We want you to go home with a newfound love for and an appreciation of whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic foods, and at least 20 new recipes. Probably a lot more than that. We know that you will gain you'll live the experience, you'll gain the experience, and appreciate and understand the importance of greens in your diet. A lot of people say they don't like greens. Well, when you understand all that they do for you, you might like them a little bit more. And once our chefs show you how to enjoy them, I'm sure you'll like them a lot more. We want to talk about having a healthy relationship with your food and your eating habits, and how you can reestablish control over those eating habits so that you can get back on track should you ever get off track. We want to make fitness fun. My experience is people will play far more aggressively than they will work. And this is true whether it's work out or any other kind of work. And so I want to show you how to make fitness fun and help you develop a fitness program that will allow you to reach your fitness needs. Of course, a happier, healthier way of relating to yourself and others is really important. We wouldn't want to miss that. You go home with a basket full of intellectual and experiential goodies that you can draw on like a magician pulling rabbits out from under his sleeve. And the next thing you know, you go, wow, I can make this work. I can make this work at home. I can make 80-10-10 work on the road. I can make 80-10-10 work at conventions. I can make 80-10-10 work at family get-togethers. I can make it work anywhere now that I understand how easy and how flexible 80-10-10 truly is. For me, the bottom line is attend an 80-10-10 food and sport retreat, and your life will change in ways that you never imagined. Your relationship with yourself will improve, your relationships with others. You'll be able to be more influential to your friends and family. It'll be good for you because we are dedicated to making it good for you. We've got what works, folks. We've got what everybody else wants. Find a way to make it happen. Come, just come. I promise you won't regret it. Reserve your spot with a deposit at foodandsport.com/retreats. Become a part of the 80-10-10 family. That's the most rewarding feeling in the world, to be part of a family of people who eat like you, of people who accept you for who you are, of people who want to have fun with you and stay in touch with you and learn from you and share their success strategies with you. We're going to have a blast at the Food and Lifestyle Retreat, and it's someplace that you really want to be and don't want to miss. That's about all, other than food and sport, questions and answers with Dr. Graham. So let's just see if we have any questions at all. Kevin's come back on the line, and he's going to share the questions that you've asked before, during, and if you have some questions for us now, immediately after having heard the webinar, please feel free. You can still type in your questions now. Kevin, you out there?
I'm still here, Dr. Graham, and I'm ready with the questions.
Well, I'm glad we have some for tonight.
Yes, the first question comes from Linda, and she's wanting to know if she can attend with her 16-year-old daughter.
That's absolutely a yes. We've had lots of teenagers come to these events. From age 12 upwards, it's a family style event. We're very respectful of everyone. You won't hear anything other than appropriate vocabulary and appropriate responses to people. You know, we're highly respectful of each individual. We want to communicate in a nonviolent way and make sure that everyone gets their needs met. We've had a lot of teenagers come. In fact, some of them have become staff members. They were so outstanding in their skills and awareness of 80-10-10. But we've had lots of them come from age, I think I've had 2 or 3 different 12-year-olds come with whom I'm still in touch to this day. And it's a treat to have them come. 16 years old, no problem.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. The next question comes from Anna, and she apologizes that it's not exactly related to the retreat, but she wants to know if the 80-10-10 lifestyle can help in cases of bulimia, and how can it help in avoiding to binge on food.
I've received hundreds of emails from people that I didn't even know who switched to 80-10-10 and overcame their bulimia. Yes. Sometimes people need some guidance with this. It depends on the reasons for the bulimia. But certainly the retreat and 80-10-10 both can be valuable for someone with bulimia, or someone who experiences or demonstrates these kind of tendencies. The simplest way of explaining it is that when you take care of the quality of the food you eat, the quantities take care of themselves. And it becomes easier when you have no guilt associated with the foods you eat. It becomes easier to say, okay, I'm perfectly good with that. I accept that. Let's let that stay in my system. So again, the underlying causes, the emotional issues, they probably need to be addressed if it's a severe enough problem. But a lot of times people find that they take care of it on their own simply by taking care of the quality of the food they eat, by eating 80-10-10.
Thank you for that answer. The next question comes from Tina, and she says she loves juicing and having smoothies, but she gags when she tries to eat greens or peppers or a lot of veggies. How can she retrain her taste buds?
Well, I think the easiest way to retrain the taste buds is to be shown great recipes, including great sauces, spreads, dips, fondues, toppings, soups, and things of this sort that can make vegetables so much more enjoyable, so much more of a pleasure to eat. I think that's the big ticket. Of course, some of it just comes from practice. It's got to do with the choice of vegetables or the choice of greens that we want to eat, and learning that there's a wide range of foods to choose from. We certainly don't all eat everything. We pick and choose our favorites, and you can do that on 80-10-10. You've got hundreds of vegetables to choose from. You don't have to eat them all.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. The next question comes from Ellen, and she's asking what time of day is safe for getting regular sun without burning?
It's not so much a matter of time of day as it is how tan you are to begin with. But if we're talking about safe, we're probably talking about someone who isn't all that tan. And the safety factor is really going to be easy to measure if you use your body like a sundial. You go out in the sun and you look to see if your shadow is longer than your height. When your shadow is longer than you are, meaning the sun is below the 45-degree mark, or the 45-degree angle, then it's usually considered quite safe to be in the sun. Unless you're like way up on top of a mountaintop or something. But usually if the sun, if your shadow is longer than your height, the sun is pretty safe to be in. If it's shorter than you, or you have almost no shadow at all because the sun is straight up above you, this is when the burning rays are at their most intense. Basically what this is telling you is how much of the atmosphere does the sun's rays have to go through, because the particulate matter in the atmosphere is what filters out the burning rays. So when the sun is a little lower in the sky, this is when the burning rays are at their minimum. There's still plenty of tanning rays, but you don't want to get burned, and that's what harms you.
Thank you. The next question comes from Nicola. I'm going with Nicola. And she's wondering if it's best to graze throughout the day, or is it in general better to stick with 3 meals a day?
In general, it's better to stick with meals. You'll find that your digestion is better if you stick with meals. You'll find that your sense of appetite and hunger is more in tune with reality when you stick with meals. You find that you're able to be more active by eating meals and then being active in between them than if you're always relying on grazing. A lot of people find that they have trouble eating enough volume in 2 or 3 or 4 meals a day, and so they go to multiple meals, eating 8, 10, 12 times a day instead. But the reality is that at that point, you're eating less, not more, because you never have much appetite. You just take a few bites. You actually eat more, typically, when you're eating meals than when you're trying to graze. And so not only do you have better digestion, but you have better weight management when you're eating 3 meals per day.
Thank you. The next question comes from John, and he's wondering, does he have to be 100% raw to do 80-10-10? Is there a place in the program for sweet potatoes, such as the McDougall style, or is it truly just not the best choice?
80-10-10 is a caloronutrient ratio. It's got to do with how much carbohydrate, fat, and protein you consume as a ratio to each other. And so certainly, yes, you could be eating cooked food and still be on 80-10-10 caloronutrient ratio. In terms of health, nutrition, and mental health, a lot of other factors, ideal is raw. And so I recommend 80-10-10 raw vegan as the best of the options available within 80-10-10. If you think you deserve the best, then you learn to eat raw vegan. If you want to eat some cooked food, most people are tempted to eat some cooked food when they first go raw until they learn and remember why they went raw, which was because cooked food didn't make sense and it wasn't getting them where they were trying to go. It leads to addictive overeating of cooked food. And we see this with a wide variety of people, including ourselves, but you see it with a lot of the people who were raw leaders and cooked food just took over. So I recommend 100% raw 100% of the time as being the ideal. If you want to eat some cooked food now and then, well, that'll be your choice. It doesn't mean you're not doing 80-10-10, it just means you're not doing 80-10-10 raw. Or if you're eating food that isn't vegan, then you're not eating 80-10-10 vegan. We think, from experience, I've noticed that people perform their best, whether it's mentally, physically, socially, or otherwise, on 80-10-10 raw vegan.
Thank you for the response. The next question comes from Sam, and he wants to know if he necessarily needs to be fit. He wants to know if he both needs to be fit, really fit to attend the retreat, and also if he needs to already be on 80-10-10 to attend the retreat.
And the answer to both of those is no. We're welcoming newcomers into the 80-10-10 family by introducing them to the food and lifestyle at this retreat. And so no, you don't. This could be the very first exposure to 80-10-10. It would be a great first exposure to 80-10-10. As far as the fitness, people come, I've had people come who can't even walk up a flight of stairs without stopping along the way. Seriously, couldn't go up a flight of stairs. And came back the next year far fitter, and came back the next year even far fitter, and they could go up a flight of stairs. But we will present group activities and customized individual activities that are designed to meet you at your fitness level. You do not have to be an athlete in order to attend our food and lifestyle retreat. In fact, we kind of expect you won't be.
Thank you. The next question comes from Nick, and he says he was trying to do 80-10-10, but because of kidney damage in the past, reflux, the longer he was on 80-10-10, he had higher and higher potassium levels in his blood over the levels that were meant to be as a maximum for him. His kidney doctor also noticed that and told him to eat food that was lower in potassium. Should he eat? He's asking a question here, but should he eat food like rice that is low in potassium, or what do you suggest?
This is a fairly technical medical question, and it's one that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole without a full history. I can tell you generically, however, that we've had people who were actually on kidney dialysis eating 80-10-10 with great results, several of whom got completely off dialysis, others who only reduced the frequency of their dialysis. But we watched anybody with kidney problems report back that the easiest thing they'd ever done for their kidneys was eat 80-10-10. Certainly in this individual case, as I said, I wouldn't touch it without full history and knowledge of all the parameters and other complicating issues that might be involved. But as a general guideline, fruits and vegetables are the easiest on your kidneys of any food. And so it would very much depend on the specifics of this kidney problem before I could give guidelines.
Thank you. The next question comes from Enzo, and they're asking, does our body lose our ability to produce DHA/EPA, the fats, as we age? It says, does our body lose our ability to do DHA? And I'm assuming perhaps it's implying can it be used, or does our ability to use these fats diminish as we age?
This is a very complicated question that appears very easy on the surface, appears rather simple on the surface. There are very, very few functions in the human body that are said to be caused by aging that actually are caused by aging. Age is typically not the reason why a large number of the things that are associated with aging actually happen. They happen because of lifestyle and accumulated lifestyle damage and the eventual degeneration that accompanies such lifestyle abuse or cumulative lifestyle abuse. At the same time, I don't know of studies or texts that have spent much time on this particular question in order to be able to answer what does the science say. And so, honestly, I don't know. I can try and look it up. But my first impression is, wait a minute, this is a question based on a kind of a funky premise, because when the brain developed, certain things happened that don't now have to keep happening again and again and again. The brain is now, once you're born, your brain is there. It has to gain experience, but it doesn't gain intellect, and it doesn't lose a lot of the properties that make it up, any more than your fingers lose their fingerness or your eyes lose what makes them eyes. You don't have to eat specific things or your eyes just break down. All you have to do is eat normal, healthy food. Our ability to function healthfully in order to do the biochemistry that is normal and inherent in a human being will remain there to the degree that we live a healthy lifestyle. And this is why I teach food style and lifestyle at the 80-10-10 Food and Lifestyle Retreat. I haven't found DHA or any of the other factors that people promoting higher fat consumption has ever been a problem for people who have stayed long term on 80-10-10.
Thank you for the response, Dr. Graham. The next question, I'm going to ask him a little bit out of order here, but Donal wants to know what's your advice for good sources on vitamin B12?
That's out of order, Kevin. No, I'm only kidding. B12 is a substance manufactured by microorganisms, bacteria. These bacteria live in our nasal passage, they live in our throat, they live in our small intestines, they live on things, typically, rather than in things. So they live on the surfaces of our nasal passages, the surfaces of our intestines. They live on various dirty things like a sidewalk or earth. There are no food sources per se of B12 of any significant value. They may have some B12 on them. Cows don't make B12, pigs don't make B12, but they do ingest some in the food they eat. If they put their mouth down to the earth, they do manufacture it from the bacteria that live inside of them. But in fact, B12 for the cows that live in a relatively sterile environment or an environment of marketing purposes, a lot of cows in a small area, they can't get their head in the grass as much as they normally would. These cows are all given B12 injections. I haven't found B12 to be a major issue for anyone on an 80-10-10 generically, but any individual could go B12 deficient, and usually they do so because they're under great stress. It's not that they didn't ingest enough B12 or produce enough B12, but that the intrinsic factor produced in the stomach lining was reduced in quantity due to the way your stomach tends to respond to emotional and physical and chemical stresses. So certainly anybody who has symptoms of B12 deficiency needs to look at taking care of that. But if you're not having B12 deficiency symptoms, I don't think B12 is any more of an issue than vitamin C or protein.
Thank you for the response. The next question comes from Nicola, and she says she's been eating raw for about a week, and she's feeling bloated. Yes?
Congratulations.
And she's feeling a little bloated. She's not in pain, but her stomach is swollen. Is this her fault for mixing fruits together that shouldn't be mixed? Or is it possibly the digestive system cleansing itself? She says she's drinking 3 liters of water a day.
It's an interesting question, and I answered it on VegSource this morning. But it's another one. Maybe this one isn't a 10-foot pole. It's a 5-foot pole. It's one that I wouldn't handle without a lot more information, particulars. But typically, it's something you're doing. Not always, but typically, it's something you're doing. Either food combining hasn't been idealized, and you're not digesting your food well, or Food frequency is making it an issue. It's rarely because of something generic to 80-10-10, and far less likely to have anything to do with what I would call a detox or a cleansing reaction. Uh, if there's a bloating going on, there could be microbial stuff going on inside of you from your former diet that now you put them on this new diet. Let's remember that there's roughly 10 times as many bacterial cells in our body as there are human cells. So you put them on a new diet and they may not react well to it at first. They could die off, which could create gas. They could just be more gassy the way the breakdown of the fiber itself. So there's a lot to guess with about this, and I prefer not to do any guessing. So if Nicola wants to have personalized information, we can do that through consult. I recommend looking at our 80-10-10 success guide, learning the rules of food combining well enough so that you can be sure that it's not that issue. Perhaps spending a few days eating ultra simple meals and then see if that just solves it of its own, and then as you build out, make sure you do so with good food combining.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. Sound advice. And the last question, this comes from, actually it's two more questions. Ken is wondering, he says he finds his eyes becoming clearer and clearer after 8 months on this lifestyle. Is this something you also see in other long-term 80-10-10ers?
Absolutely, yes. This is a common experience.
Simple answer. I've seen it myself. Oh, we got a couple more questions coming in now. So Lee wants to know, how beneficial is the retreat for someone who might also want to become an 80-10-10 lifestyle coach? Is it highly recommended to do this first before the coach training? Or should you jump?
I would say this is an excellent first step to A, getting to meet the staff that tends to run the lifestyle coaching program, B, getting to see what it's like out in Cedro Woolley, and whether or not you want to spend time at retreats there in order to really put some attention on the lifestyle coaching program. I would say it's an excellent first step. It's an easy, short program as opposed to starting out with something like interning in Costa Rica, which is a major commitment. You come over for a shorter visit, get to meet us, see if you enjoy it as much as you really thought you were, talk firsthand with myself and Grant, our Director of Education, to find out more about that program, and I would welcome you to come to the food and lifestyle retreat. I think it would serve you well.
Thank you. Nick also wants to know, are you familiar with overcoming cancer, even advanced cancer, on the 80-10-10 diet? Is it possible?
Yes, it's possible. I've seen cases of cancers, a wide variety, reverse or not get worse, reverse, and some even go away. I'm working with clients who were told they were going to be dead years ago, who are still alive and well and thriving on 80-10-10. Does that mean everyone will get that reaction? No, and the people who won't basically have passed the point of no return. It's called the limitation of matter. And it's like asking me, if you cut yourself, will it heal? Well, it depends on the cut, doesn't it? It depends on how bad that cut is. If you cut off your arm at the shoulder, you may not even stop bleeding in time to heal, let alone grow a new arm. And the same can be said with cancer. If the damage is so severe, the progression of the disease is so far that you've passed the limitation of matter for the body to heal itself under any conditions, then it simply isn't going to do that. We have to have the right conditions because we only have so much energy to go around. The body only has so much energy. It's got to keep the heart beating. It's got to keep the lungs and liver and spleen and kidneys and everybody working. It's got to keep the organs and the glands and the tissues and the cells functioning. And then with the remaining energy can put that into healing itself after it repairs itself. So there's a lot that has to happen, and then there's a little energy left for repair and healing. Certainly by going 80-10-10, we free up more energy for healing. And I have seen good results, but I can't say that I guarantee results. If you wait till the very last minute, a lot of people go well past the point of no return before they ever ask for help. And that's not a smart move.
Thank you for the response, Dr. Graham. Sunita wants to know a couple questions here. She wants to know she needs to lose 15 kilos. Is that feasible on a raw diet?
It's easy to lose weight. Easy to lose weight on a raw diet. Easy to lose weight on a raw diet. All you got to do is just eat fruits and vegetables, and the likelihood is that you will lose weight. You have to work at it to gain weight. You have to be intentionally trying to gain weight on an all raw diet, especially if you cut the fat down less than 10% of calories. By the time you keep the fat down low, the trick is holding your weight, building your weight. You have to really eat, especially for a beginner wanting to lose weight. It's easy on the 80-10-10 approach.
Definitely, in the beginning stages, the weight seems to just melt off as you try to eat enough.
And the second part of her question?
And it's the last question we have here. We hope to see everybody else at the next webinar, but the last question here from Sunita is, what advice do you have on tooth decay and also missing a period on the raw diet? So I guess she flipped in 3.
I've never seen better results with my own teeth than I have on 80-10-10. Most people can say they've never seen better results with teeth than on 80-10-10. The worst results I've seen have been when people switch back and forth between cooked and raw. That's really hard. Or when people try to eat only acid fruits. That's hard on teeth. If you try to live on only acid fruits and no vegetables, you're almost asking for dental problems. I recommend that people clean their teeth regularly. I recommend they take care of their teeth. As the expression goes, if you don't take care of your teeth, don't worry, they'll just go away. But fruits and vegetables are our ideal diet. It would be just such a shame if we'd come up with a dietary approach that was perfect in every way except for your teeth. And that's just not the case. The best results we tend to see for teeth is on 80-10-10. As far as menstrual problems or menstrual issues or missing a period, most people respond that their period's never been more regular, more easy, lighter flow. Some people talk about missed periods, but there are an easy 20 lifestyle factors that can cause you to miss a period or two now and then, from emotional upset to changes in diet to changes in calories consumed to changes in the caloronutrient ratio to the amount of fitness activities you do and the sleep you get. There's just a huge travel, job change. There's no end of issues that can affect it. Typically, missing a period or two is really no problem whatsoever. The question is, are you ovulating, not are you menstruating? As long as you're ovulating on a regular basis, there's no need for concern. Typically, the only reason that you're going to drive ovulation to cease is if you bring body fat levels down really low, either depending on the physique of the woman, below 13, or for some women even into single digits. You can actually cause the hormones to be so affected adversely that you no longer ovulate, which is easily correctable by just putting on a bit of body fat. So the loss or the missing of one menstruation cycle, not a big deal. But check to see if you're ovulating.
Thank you very much, Dr. Graham, for the thorough responses. That's all the questions we have.
It's been a treat. It's been a real pleasure. I enjoy doing these sessions. I'm looking forward to our next webinar, which will be on Saturday, and I'm sure we'll have a great crowd. Please tell people if you enjoyed this one. And as I say, reserve a spot at a Food and Sport retreat at foodandsport.com/retreats.
Doug, you may end the webinar now.
Thanks.